We're live.
Excellent. All right, so this is another one of our Naiji Temple sessions. We like to investigate cases of the human condition, the meaning of existence. This week, actually, we don't have a lot going on necessarily with cases because we're all kind of working on stuff for media production, and so that's been having most of our attention. But in the course of that, we actually have found a few things to talk about. One is our ongoing interest in the new Naked and Afraid series, the XL series, the All-Star series. And we'll talk about the latest episode here a little bit, and there are several Nijez in play there. That's cool. And then also in the course of me working on the music timeline, there are a lot of new reads going on there, but also I just noticed some different Nijez pairings, which could be interesting as well to talk about. And that'll be it. We'll keep it short because I have more to do tonight for the ebooks. Okay, introductions, we'll get into it. I am Naiji Coach.
I'm Naiji Mitchell.
I'm Naiji Ben.
And I am Naiji Glenn.
Alrighty, so we'll start off with Naked and Afraid. So quick thing, of course, Mitchell and Ben, do you think between the two of you, you could put together the 4 teams for us? Do you know what they are? Do you remember?
I don't
4
think
teams on Naked and Afraid.
you didn't really give us all the names.
I don't know any of their
I
names.
don't really know all the names, but I do know that
Mojos?
there's I do know that there's 3 Nijai on one team.
That's right.
And there's the Naiji, Zenai, and Jinai, but I think the Jinai was out or something like that.
Correct. So good. And male teams. That's an all-male team and all-female team. What about the
2
mixed?
Jaini and a Zenai, who was kind of nutsy.
Mm-hmm. And who's male and female in that?
The Jaini are female.
Good. And then the last team?
You know, Ben?
So we covered the 3 female. Did we cover all 3 male? The 3 male was one, or
Yes.
Yes. This
So
one
we're
I think
missing
was
we're missing the 2 males and the 1 female, right?
that's correct.
Yeah.
It is a Nijai female,
There
who
you
was
go.
the other nutsy one, and the males were Naiji and Zenai.
There you go. Okay. So,
Hold on, have you guys watched it?
No, but we've talked
Oh,
about this
okay.
so much that it's like
there. Okay, so on that, since me and Glenn have seen it, we'll give you a little more on at the next episode. How about this? Can you and Ben kind of put together for our viewers just kind of generally what's been going on, particularly that one team that we've been focusing on?
which one are we focusing on?
Well, I guess we're focusing on the Nijez. So really the 3 teams that have Nijez in it. The Jaini and Zenai team is interesting, but for our purposes, we've been focusing on the ones that have Nijez in them. So, Mitchell, what's been going on? How about this? I'll give you each one an easier one. You can share the last one. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Okay, so with the Nijai and the 2 males, the Naiji and the Zenai, there's been a lot of like fighting because the Nijai, she had this like kind of tragedy earlier in her life or something like that, and she's obviously like an intelligent person, but she's not really dealing with that well, and it kind of gets under her skin. And so she does a lot of kind of goofy, self-destructive things, where she like takes their knives and throw it in the water, or something like that. And
That's actually the second stage. Yes, the goofiness comes from she doesn't sort of react well to sort of standard interactions, and then when confronted on this new way, and there's the blow
then
up.
she becomes self-destructive instead of actually confronting it and dealing with it. So that's been happening, and she kind of like, she'll make these points that she shouldn't make. I remember that as one thing, like she did this thing with the Zenai where she went and got something that was, she got it and she didn't get hurt, but it was completely useless, and she shouldn't have done it because it was risky, and she was trying to act like it was like a good thing that she did it, but it was actually not, and they kind of just, she didn't like how they reacted to it, but they reacted to it well, like they should have, as in kind of dismissing it. And even getting a little bit miffed.
Yeah, because next he says in that, if you're going to be a wild child, there's even room for that, but then you have to accept the responsibilities and consequences of it. You can't expect people to, like, because she not talking like, what's the line in that? Some of these are quite wild. It's like, okay, but you can't ask us to endorse it. That's, you know what I mean? I can be as understanding about your wild childness, but I mean, asking us to say, yes, I approve and I'm into it, that you can't ask me to do that if I'm not into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your spirits are just gonna, like, if you see something, it's like, okay, well, you're doing that and you're into that, but it's not something that my spirits agree with. You know?
And that's what she wanted. She wanted agreement. You can't. Your Zhai cannot demand agreement of someone. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's like approve.
He basically wants to approve. No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and the Xenai kind of like, I don't. He probably said something snarky.
Okay, not him. Just he actually is an interesting case because he has solid, basic like technical survival skills, and he has a tenaciousness of spirit of willpower. Like he's not a quitter. So he has those two things: skills and willpower. However, next, he thought I should bring it up since I forgot to mention this last time, and it is relevant. The first time he was on, he made it through his challenge, but his partner didn't. And she was an Nijai female, and objectively speaking, she was pretty spiffy. I didn't see her really do anything other than he was obnoxious to work with. And so it kind of like shut her down, and she knew how to deal with it, so she managed to just quit. So it's important to note, I'm almost positive those producers on purpose put the one Xenai who basically picked on a Nijai to make her quit with the one they all know is a basket case.
Because they knew it would be drama city, and like even if they got it through, great, and if not, then it'll make for great drama.
Exactly.
I'm curious to know about like what happened before though with that one Nijai, because she was spiffy, but he shut her down, and he was just not cooperating with her as much.
Well, basically, he had ideas of what should be done, and he was conscious about that. And then he wanted her to help out with his ideas and implementing basically his ideas on his schedule with his style of enthusiasm. And to her ideas were being thrown off by his manner, he just wasn't hearing it. And so over time, she just kind of spent more and more time away, like on her own. And then she just missed her kids and stuff, I believe, and just wanted to get out of there because she couldn't stand being around him. So that is important to note that he is a technically proficient and mentally tough Xenai, but kind of a jerk.
He's not very easy to get along with.
No, he's not.
He seems to be more able to get along with the one Naiji dude. They have a good like rapport with one another.
That's the thing on that one is.
Directed, or is it?
What happened there is what I think would also happen to some degree with the nutty Xenai dude who's with the two Zhani females, which is they really should have put him embedded in the all-male team. Because if he was hanging around that Naiji Christian, who has his issues, but he's a strong character, him and EJ, who's a very strong Xenai, they would not be tolerating his goofy shit.
Right.
So, plus I think it would be different because the Zhani are going with a very low energy expenditure strategy, and he's had issues before where he pushes himself too hard. They should have put him with some directives who are like, you're not going to say they're lazy, but at the same time, they're not going to be cool with his way of doing it. But
yeah,
long story short is, he's actually just a better person to the guy. The Xenai who's with has the Nijai Anura Bowen, who's the issue Nijai lady. Yeah. The Xenai who's there, his interactions with the bearded, Bam Naiji, that Naiji is strong. He's got strong mental abilities and he's got strong survival abilities. Probably at least as strong as the Xenai, more likely stronger. And I believe because of that, his decorum towards the Naiji, because the Naiji is formidable, and he's a male. You know what I mean? So like
yeah,
he's actually like putting on better behavior to the Naiji.
Right.
So that affects things because he was much more dismissive when he was with the Nijai in the earlier episode, and he was very dismissive of the Nijai in this time around, although she was being goofy. So.
Okay.
But that didn't help.
But then there's another Nijai, which is the one in episode 3 that came over.
Okay, yeah, okay. So do we all understand where it was at? We know Hakim the Xenai, he had to bail because he had cramps for the dehydration, so he's gone.
But the other two Naiji and Xenai in that group are good.
Are good. Okay.
And the Nijai are pretty good too, I think, right?
Yeah, Nijai females are stronger. So now, Glenn, why don't you go ahead and give us a synopsis of this? Was it episode 3 now? And I'll jump in anything I can make them as well. But you go and take lead on that.
Okay, so basically, what do you call it? At the beginning of the episode, I watched it like 2-3 days ago, so I don't remember exactly every detail. But the main kind of points that kind of stood out to me. It was a bit of more of a more mellow episode. I felt like. I don't know. I felt like there was not too much that happened, but there was interesting things that happened nonetheless. The most interesting thing.
Building episode. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that. Yeah, and then but in the beginning there was the main thing, which is basically that Honora, she basically left. She was like, I'm gonna leave now, and it's funny what she did because she basically said at one point, she was like, the first time I had to leave, I had to tap out because I wasn't able. No, I was not aware. I was not conscious when I left. But this time, I'm going to make the decision myself to want to actually tap out, and so I'm going to leave with my dignity. Yeah,
that's the growth that she thinks it is, but.
Yeah, it was really like, okay, it's not really. Yeah, I was like,
you want to quit, you don't want to get fired, right?
Right. And another thing too is I'm wondering about is the Z9 Naiji, they were able to go back and get a few of the items that were in the water.
that was awesome.
I think most likely they probably thought maybe they could find them if they spent some time looking around in the water, but they're afraid if she was still there, she would just take them back if they were hers, or she would throw them back in the water again when they weren't looking. So as soon as she left, they went back and spent a couple hours in the water, and they found like 2 or 3 of the items.
It's funny, it's not something. I mean, people should be able to be able to handle like stupid people around them as much as they can and be good with that kind of energy. But it's just known that if you don't have certain things like kryptonite on you, it just makes for the entire thing like you're able to function, think more freely, more better, more creatively, just more smarter. You become like a more genius when you're surrounded by positive energy.
It shrinks you when you're in inclement social alchemies. It makes it much more difficult to be at your top game. For example, instead of thinking like what kind of cool creative things we come up with to make this situation better, they're actually thinking, should we go and swim around and get those things she threw at the bottom of the lake now? Or should we chill out here until this bitch leaves? Because if we go and get him out of a couple hours, she's just gonna do it. She's gonna do it again. Because if she was like thinking about leaving, but she saw them get those items back out after working for a couple hours, probably she would just stop on that again before leaving. Like she wanted to leave them. She basically wanted to leave them in the worst pop. That was really mean, Jai. Like she was like, "How can I make this hard on you?"
That's like I really just like I hate that kind of like when people become that way where they just all they want to do is just sure. Basically be destructive in some way. Like I might mess myself up, but I'm gonna mess you up with me. It's like no, that's like really lame, It's just not cool. So yeah, so she left and they are basically alone now, just the two of them, and they're sitting around a campfire and they're like doing their thing, and then suddenly.
Now, hold up. Time out.
Okay.
But I think to make it make sense, we have to talk about how the single Nijai became the single Nijai that is meeting them. Do you talk about that?
Okay, sure. So basically, Danny. Is it Danny? No, it's.
That's right.
I forget their names. But there's one Nijai that kind of joined in a little bit later in the group of 3, and. The two that were already together, they have like this really good relationship with one another. They have this like good tag team going on, the two of them, Nijai. And she kind of came in later, and so she's kind of a little bit. She considers herself a little bit of like a black sheep, I guess you could say. So she
felt awkward getting into the rhythm with them, like a third.
Yeah, exactly. Because they have this thing where they do a lot of things together, and then whereas the other one, the third one. She kind of feels like the third wheel a little bit, and she's trying to like get in, but she's not able to sort of like get in like the way she wants to. So what she ends up doing is she kind of likes to spend her time a little bit more solo, and she kind of just does her own thing basically. And so I want to get into it now. Like basically
she wants one two of them.
Yeah, she basically kind of like runs away from them for a little bit, just to explore like the savannah or like the different areas around. And just
she simply did to kind of get away to clear her head for a bit. So that's where she's at when she rolls up.
Yeah, and so she's being really like cagey. she she noticed.
That was very interesting. I actually found it wasn't like anything explosive, but I found that very intriguing watching Nijai operate. She was operating.
Yeah, she's basically like in the bushes, creeping up, like trying to be very, very, stealth, and like trying to make it so that no one sees her. And she creeps up closer and closer.
She knows it's people. She doesn't think it's an animal. She hears a noise and she knows it's some other team. And so her instinct is, I'm going to see them, but they won't see me.
Yeah, but she ends up making a little bit of noise, and then the Naiji.
So
and then the two of them are like.
It's like, oh hey, you know what I mean? One can get caught. She was charmingly caught. Oh hey.
Oh, charmingly caught, yeah. But they were like together. They're like, I hear something. It's like, I hear some noise. The Naiji gets up and he's like, what are you doing there? And then they're like, oh. And then they hug, and then suddenly they're all like, the three of them are just hanging out together. And she checks out their entire path, or like their little area that they got going on. And she notices, oh, they got a lot of really cool stuff. They got a little pool area. They got this thing. They're kind of like chilling. They're just doing all their thing. And they got food. They have like almonds or something, and they eat those. And she's like she begins to start really thinking
also important too, as a part of that, which I think she was kind of feeling a lack of. Not the other Nijai were bad. I think it was just like a disconnect there. But anyway, the guys were like happy to see this new person, so they were like showing off their place and like telling all the cool stuff that he could do, and basically interacting with her, kind of like making her feel welcome in their activities. They basically spent like most of the day with her. And during it, they kind of just showed her what they were doing and what they were thinking about and that kind of stuff. But besides that, she was also like trying to like find out all kinds of stuff, like, so what's around here? What you guys are finding? And then she's like,
she was like a reconnaissance mission, right?
She's like, so what would you think about maybe hooking up with me, or maybe all three of us? And she was like, she feeling out what possibilities were there. That was funny. The Naiji, he was pretty cool at first because I think he thought she was cool, but he was like. They had a code though. They did have a code, like the Z9 and the Naiji. He was like, understood. Well, whatever decision we make, we'll have to talk when you're not here, and then we'll get back to you. That's cool. They didn't really talk about that. They kind of just looked at each other and were like, that's a pretty heavy thing, so we're gonna have to wait till you go. You understand? And then, the Naiji, when he was like talking to the camera afterwards, he's like, she seemed pretty cool, upbeat, looks like she has some skills. But three people, that's a whole nother thing. It didn't happen this episode, but later in the episode, they show like a flash of what's become the next episode, and apparently they do hook up. The two guys with all three of the ladies become a 5-person group. At some point, you see the Naiji talk to the cameras like, 5 is too many people. I'm very curious how that happens. Because like,
you think that would actually be better, like. I mean, like if you group up more people, you think that would actually be more effective.
I feel like you could use your.
It is, but the issue is, how much can you? As Naiji, I really understand this because like Swag was pushing me my whole life to go bigger, but as being a subjective, it's a question of control.
Oh yes, that's true.
How much? If I can control it, then yes, 5's better than 3. But the moment you start losing control of like productive harmony, team cohesion, things like that, it's worse. It's way better to have 3 than 4 people with one being sort of goofy. Do you mean?
Yeah.
So it makes more power, but also more possibilities, things to go off if you don't know what to do and to expect with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, you need a larger, stronger mandate to make more and more people able to operate together.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in the wild, for example, you're all kind of just there, so you're all individuals, so there's no real mandate other than survive. So, you know what I mean? Like, if someone starts acting goofy in a 5-person group, what's like that higher authority that can step in? You don't really have that, other than, maybe you'll fail at a survival task, but not interpersonally so much. So yeah, I'm curious how that resolves.
Interesting.
But anyway,
so they actually hook up as like a group of 5, or do they just try that for like one day?
That we don't know. We don't know. But at some point, the 5 of them do attempt to operate together, and we see the IG kind of like, I don't know about this. That's a lot of moving parts.
3D drive.
I know, right? That's like herding cats right there.
I know.
So I think for those two groups, that was basically what the situation was. Maybe we could talk a little bit about the other ones too. The one with the 2 Jaini and the 1 Zenai.
What kept
Something
saying,
interesting.
he finally did it. I'll give him credit. He kept saying 5 more days, 4 more days. He kept getting that countdown.
Yeah, countdown.
And
Like 1 or 2 more days, you know. And then he says he's gonna start snapping, and then one day he just like sitting around, he's lying there. And the 2 Jaini, after they like cover themselves with like mud and everything, and it dries a little bit, they come up and approach him, and it's like, oh, so what do you want to do today? And he's just like lying there, and then he's like, oh, well, actually, you know, I have this one little area that like, he made his own. What do you call it? It's like he like made his own like hammock thing or
it's like
whatever.
because he basically didn't want to hang out with them because he didn't think they were grooving on him. He wasn't grooving on them, so he made his own shelter. He was doing this over the course of a few days without telling them. And then one day, once he had it finally built, they walked back like, "Hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm out of here." That's what's up. Like he was waiting for that moment. He was like all happy about himself. I'll tell you what's up. Zenai out.
And then the 1 Jaini was like, well, you want to leave? That's cool. You can leave. And she was talking just to the audience, I think. And then she was like, good luck because you're going to need it. And I was like, you know, I think them being separated might be a good thing because he seems to be like the kind of mindset where he wants to be able to just function on his own. He's not able to connect with these 2 Jaini very well. So it would be good for him to sort of like get that distance, and then maybe he might get better. Like after he realizes how hard it is to be alone, he might come back and they might join up again later, or maybe he might join up with another group, with the 2 guys maybe. I don't know. And who knows what might happen? But I mean, I think it's good that they're taking a break from each other because there's too much tension. There's too much of they're not vibing well with each other. And the 2 Jaini, they seem to be able to get along really well, and they're doing the thing.
Other 2 Jaini, one of them is a bit sweeter than the other one. They both are fairly strong competitors, but one is a bit sweeter, and she's kind of lost her patience, but she kind of just sort of like sweetly has lost her patience. The other one, who I think is basically solid, she's kind of lost her patience with the Zenai, and now her Jai is rankled. And I don't think it's going to get unrankled without giving some space. Like right now, if he was actually to start acting somewhat normal or decent, I think he would have a hard time making it work because she's going to want him to, like, in her mood right now, she'd want him to, like, capitulate a lot. So it's probably better that they just spend some time back. That way, you know what I mean? Because like they're basically, I think both their Jais have just gotten fed up with the other ones. So maybe a little Z timeout, both everyone's a good thing.
Right. So I mean, apart from that, there doesn't really seem to be much that went on. I do like that he created like that one area for them, and so they have that now. But he has his own area, and so he's just kind of like doing his own thing now. And I'm not sure, like they seem to have like completely 2 different like methods as far as like living in the wild. One's like really active, and the other ones they seem like really reserved, like really, you know, like it seems to me like it's really different from each other. Like I wanted to like hear like a critique on both of them. Actually, both those methods.
Just that's again where I think they purposely knew there was gonna be tension, because the one group with Honora Bowen, she's very sensitive to any kind of like feedback or critique, and the Zenai she was with picks on people. In this group, it's the same thing, which is the Zenai had an issue last time with the Nijai about no, I think it was last time. He was someone last time, and he was like spending a lot of energy. So he survived, but he had what I would consider like the upper range of doing that kind of stuff and still doing it, because he spent a lot of calories and he hurt himself a lot because he's so active. Now the 2 Jaini, they had a very, very low end. So ironically, I don't know if either one was actually wrong. It's that I think they were, because all 3 of them did complete their challenge, but they're 2 radically different approaches, and I'm sure again the producers put those radically different approaches on the same team because they knew it was going to be a problem.
Yeah, and these producers, they have like an agenda.
Drama, of course. So
they want to like see. Let's see these two. Let's see like it's sort of like Saw, you know, like let's put these people together in these different conditions and see who vibes and like who survives and whatever.
for me personally, I consider the Zhanye strategy to be a little too low energy.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, because their strategy kind of requires their partner to either do more work than them or to accept the minimum amount of return from the environment. You mean you're not going to spend a lot of time in making a structure? You're not going to spend a lot of time looking for food. You're not going to spend not spend a lot of time gathering wood for fire. So these things you're not going to do. So you're going to have to expect that you're going to be doing more suffering. And so, which you can do, but that's a choice. So they probably should discuss that in the beginning of like, you know, how this is going to be, because that was their strategy before, and it's a strategy this time. Now I know the Xenai was probably upset because he's like, yeah, but I'm going to build this structure and it's enough for all three of us. So you get to use my structure when you didn't do anything to earn it. But on the other hand, they never asked him to build it. So that's why, to me, actually, if you're blaming anyone, would be the producers, because he's upset about the structure, but he is willing to build on his own. They are upset that they're being asked to do more work than they feel like, but to give them their credit, they have shown their Convocandus lying in a very low-rent, structure and just kind of suffering it, almost like, running a marathon. A lot of Zhanye who come on actually come from like marathon backgrounds as well, hippie wilderness stuff, and also marathons. So a lot of times they're pretty cool. Like I'm just gonna fast it through. Generally speaking, the directives, and particularly I notice a lot of times the objectives, they're not as comfortable. Like I'm just gonna fast my way through this.
It's I think it would make a lot of sense too, because sort of like you have this, especially like a Nai mojo, or like you kind of get angsty. You want to move. You're kind of like you have this desire to want to like start doing things. Like you want to like start.
Although the dissociation does allow to be strong with that when you need to. The one I think is going to be the most challenging is probably going to be the Xenai, and actually in their way the Nijai. The Nijai consistently are more active than both the Sub-Roms. All the Naiji so far in the show generally are pretty badass survival experts, so their skills speak for themselves, but they don't tend to be as active. Most of the Nijai are very busy gathering stuff, looking around, making structure, improve the structure, getting water. They're quite active. The Zhanye are generally the least active. After them, actually, it's the Naiji. Naiji tend to be cool with just sitting, although they tend to be very fierce in intervals. They tend to be fierce about getting water. Once they get water, they chill a bit. They get the structure built, they chill a bit. They get food, they chill a bit. So they kind of like get a key item, rest a bit, get a key item, rest a bit. But they usually water, shelter, and they'll try at least once to see if the environment will produce a meal. If that doesn't work, they'll say, maybe I'll just fast my way through. But generally, they will try to get reliable water. They'll try to get the fire built. They'll try to get the shelter built, and they'll try at least once to see if the environment will give them food.
Right. But this time, 40 days, 40 nights, it's not possible to fast your way through that, is it?
No, it's not. The Zhanye would have to alter their strategy. But on the same time, the Xenai might have to alter its strategy as well, because you're not going to be able to keep up that kind of physicality like that. So he'll have to pace himself, but he is bringing himself closer to having food, which he will have to have food from the environment to last 40 days. So the Zhanye haven't done anything as far as a critique. They've not done anything so far that shows about food, although perhaps a lot of Zhanye are very good at this, give them their credit. A lot of Zhanye have been on there, who go this low energy strategy, they can eat stuff you wouldn't think you could eat. A lot of times like roots and little flowers and little radishes, and they're like tiny little bits of calories, but they just pick them up. They're cool.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. That's actually a really good place to find energy, because you don't have to actually kill any animals to.
Right.
Yeah.
Quite a few of the Zhanye are vegans that come on.
Yeah.
And it does kind of add up if you keep doing that.
It does. Although protein is an issue. Generally speaking, you're going to need to get some protein to last over 3 weeks. But you can get protein on a vegan diet, but you have to make it more special. You'll have to get like a certain number of vegetables together that will combine to give you the amino acids you need for protein. So in a survival environment, you may not be able to get the 2 or 3 different vegetable or grains together to make that protein, whereas an animal protein is a whole protein already.
Right.
That makes sense.
So that's basically their situation. And then the 2 guys, because what do you call it? The one ninja G9 dude, he left in the second episode, or is it first? Like one of the 2 episodes. And now they're alone, and now they're trying to they've been doing pretty good. They were able to find water. They were able to find a meal. They caught something before, and now they were basically having to, they were just, I think they were like walking around, and then they came across a turtle. And the turtle is sort of like, which turtle was
this? Awesome. This is so awesome. I loved it.
It was a really interesting episode because they caught this turtle. They found it just sitting there. They're like really hungry, like, we gotta find something. We gotta be able to survive. The Xenite dude is like, if you don't survive, then that's it. You're over. It's finished. He likes to say stuff like that. And so then they find something and then they catch it and he's like, the Naiji dude picks up and he's like doing his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, he gets really amped up when he finds food like that. And so then they were like, okay, let's go, create an area or like a place, like a little prison thing, to like keep this turtle. And they basically made a really good like prison thing, and they put like a key. They had like a whole bunch of like wood stack,
Solid.
And then it was solid. It was like he's like an
escape artist. That turtle is gone. Okay, do you mind? I have a few things I want to point in here that make a really interesting arc. First of all, is with the Xenai, I mentioned that he'd done 2 of these before, and the first one he was generally just a little too rough. And when he was sort of chastised a bit by that, he grew. Second one, he was smoother, but when it was the moment of killing, he got a little nasty. He was chastised about that, and he grew. Okay, so funny thing happened here is, and the Naiji also, his growling stuff freaked out his last partner. So he's trying to be better about that. So the interesting thing is they got this turtle, and they started, once they got a little cocky, and they started like saying, okay, we're going to go get the fire and the water for this. They started like, haha, you're going to be soup now, and haha, like, teasing the turtle. So they come back, turtle's gone, and I give them both their credit. I think those Nijai ladies that helped them grow, they came on their shoulder, little angels there, little fairies, because they were like, they both said it, they're like, how this happened? We were arrogant. We were arrogant, yeah, that's why it was taken from us. We didn't do this the right way, and so nature took this from us. So they did. They learned their lesson. Now they messed up, but it was interesting. You could have ascribed any number of things. They could have just raged that they lost a turtle, but ironically, they both took them like, why that happened? That happened because we were bad. Yeah. Nature said you don't deserve it. So like that was really that shock kind of was rubbed off on them. So that was good to see.
I really liked the way that they both were able to handle that situation, even though it went bad. It's like we had the meal, we were, but then we got I don't know what the word he used exactly, but he was like, yeah, we got too arrogant, and and it was like, he should be really angry, but
he's an appropriate moral lesson from it.
Yeah, he took a lesson from that. They both did, and especially the Xenai dude, I saw the one. They actually showed him saying stuff like that. He was being very, spiritual.
And that was really cool. Naiji also mentioned it. He didn't mention as much, but he also said it was because we were arrogant. That's why that happened.
Yeah, basically. And
So one more thing on the turtle.
Right.
Now we don't know if this is the same turtle.
Okay.
There's nothing really much to eat there except insects and a few other not so great stuff they've been getting by on, worms and stuff like that. But this one mega tasty thing. There's actually 2 mega tasty things. One is this giant-looking rat guinea pig that no one's been able to catch yet, just out there looking tasty, but it's fast. Is this turtle. The 2 shiny I mentioned before found this big turtle. It's like it's like meat in a tub, literally. Like it's the best thing you could find. But then they told they weren't going to eat it, so they actually set that turtle free. Now, not the same turtle, but another one of these big meat tub turtles that is waiting to be eaten is found by the Naiji and Xenai dude. They lock it up, but it gets free. It's like nature's teaching them through this turtle. You know what I mean? You see like different like mythologies, like nature's like chose this animal to kind of like help them grow, and like no matter what, this animal never gets eaten. You know, at this point, I hope they don't eat the turtle, because to me it's like a totem now. This turtle is their totem of enlightenment.
Yeah.
That turtle should have died. You know, twice that turtle should be dead. There's nothing else to eat. It's just sitting there, and twice it's gotten away. That's crazy.
It's very hard to eat a turtle, you know. Like for other animals, it's it's just like this big thing with a shell, and they can just get in there.
For humans, it's very easy, and it's just basically inside. It's all meat. I mean, so the only thing else out that looks anything like that where they're at is that giant sort of rat guinea pig that's really quick. No one can catch it.
Rat guinea pig.
The turtle's slow enough they can catch, but twice it's gotten away. That's awesome. The magic turtle.
Slow and steady wins the race. That's one lesson here.
I was steady and blessed by natural law.
It looks so cool.
You know, one of those like role-playing games where it's like it's a sacred turtle, and like if you like kill it, you like lose like your morality points. You know what I mean?
Something like that. Yeah.
Whatever you do, don't kill the turtle. Don't kill the sacred turtle.
Yeah.
All right. I guess basically it. Do you guys have anything from there you want to jam on before we sign off?
Oh, I had a thing about like the Christian dude. You mentioned that. I think you made a connection, Coach, that the fact that he's Christian may have something to do with the fact that he does the kind of like he gets really hyped up. I was wondering what that connection was exactly. Yeah.
Well, this is very broad because Christianity has a lot going to it, but there is certain trends that cross over different bubbles. One of these trends is this: in general, in most places where they have repressive cultures.
Mm-hmm.
There tend to be outlets where the pressure of it is released. There tends to be a correlation between the intensity of the release of pressure and how repressive it is. Some examples is, for example, like in Japan, it's known for being rather oppressive. At the same time, some of the hobbies different people choose to do to release their pressure, it can be very intense. Violence, sexual, eating, where it tends to be extreme, because that's once off its site on this kind of like sociological phenomenon that the pressure has to get out some way. So, for example, there are a lot of this is like things we talk about, like, oh, we have a well-ordered society because our misogyny is cool and the ladies like it, yada yada. They'll say that, but there's evidence showing there is an increase in spousal abuse and also child abuse. So there's things basically where there's like dominance and aggression is somehow outlawed in a lot of normal ways, but then it either pops up through cracks or there are certain ways you're allowed to, such as Christians can go to war. And you're allowed to kill people with vehemence in war. You can dominate them because they're ungodly. And so you can hate on them, you can bash on them, you can destroy.
Like scapegoating and
yeah,
Like
basically.
that.
Yeah.
And you can unleash your need to dominate another creature. And so same thing in hunting. Hunting is another one, like these are all God's creatures and they're meant to there to serve you. Almost like when they try to escape your blade or your bow, they are flaunting your authority as chosen by God. God has given you everything here to be your thing. And it's basically like an ego boost. That squirrel, it's not like you and that squirrel belong to the evolution of energy. No. This is God's world, which He gave to you, and so everything in it is yours.
Yeah.
So, anyway, a lot of times you'll see it like in, it can be mixed martial arts, things like that, where they will release this kind of violence, and sometimes it can be done healthily. Like I'll see Christian fighters, they kind of release their violence, but they tend to be classy, even in the ring. They're fierce, but they're classy before the fight, classy during the fight, classy afterwards, but fierce. So, but sometimes it gets to where it does not get released well. And so to me, this Naiji Christian dude, that's what it looks like to me. He looks like he's getting way too much pleasure out of killing these animals. As if being in nature in a survival situation is finally the excuse he needs to get to slit a few throats because he's kind of been having this itch.
Yeah.
And like when the animal made it hard for him to kill. Like he got so like personally offended that the animal would actually attempt to not be killed by him. Very quite strange.
There was actually something similar that was going on Facebook. I think Caroline she shared this one video of Jimmy Kimmel, and basically he was talking about how there's this one dude, this doctor dude, and he goes around in I think Africa, and then he shoots and kills like this lion, and the lion is like known as this really important figure in pop culture, I think, and people love the lion, and he was really upset about it, and it was really interesting because he has done this many times before, where he's actually found animals. He basically skins them and he cuts off their head, and then he does whatever it is that he wants to do and puts them on like his mount on the wall or something. And Jimmy Kimmel, he makes a lot of fun of him, and it's just seems interesting because he's like this doctor dude. I'm thinking maybe his profession has something to do with that, or maybe it has something. Maybe it's because he's maybe religious. I have no idea. It's just interesting because it's sort of like
that phenomenon goes back before almost any recognized religion to the oldest religions, which are generally shamanic and animistic, not animalistic, animistic.
No.
And so, as a basic sort of tenet of animism is that everything has a spirit, and so if I consume the turtle, I will get some of its wisdom, some of its power. If I consume a bear, I'll get some of its courage and ability to endure hard winters, things like this. And so that originally kind of started as an attempt to spiritually kind of feed, in a way, almost like kind of vampirism, really, because a lot of times you wouldn't necessarily, it's going outside the scope of needing to eat the animal. Now, a lot of animistic beliefs are very honoring of the animal. They're like, I have to kill the animal anyway, like a lot of Native American cultures are this way. But I'm going to recognize that in the circle of life, sometimes one of us is going to be prey to the other. And so I honor both our roles in this story. So it actually has an honorable way of kind of coming about it. But from that basic honorable way, there extends, I can honor the spirit of the bear when I got the bear to eat. Sounds simple, but it's a subtle shift and changes everything. What if I go get the bear to eat to be strong? Very different. I'm sure you saw, I might have noted that. I got the bear because part of the natural order of things is the bear was what was there to eat. So we had to kill it because we needed something to eat. It was the thing to do. As a part of that, we honor its spirit and say, thank you for giving us your bear strength as part of this animistic ritual. Now, I like that. It's Thursday night. I'd like a bear infusion, or I'm going to battle tomorrow, or I'm going to get laid tonight. I want an infusion of animal power. I'm going to go hunt this bear on purpose. I don't need to eat this bear right now. There's other things I could be eating. You have all kinds, but I'm going to go after it because it's going to give me power. Okay. As a part of that, you want people to know it gave you power. So not only do you consume the bear, you wear its pelt. So now others, not only do you feel like I ate the bear, when I look at people and I talk to them, man, woman, or child, they know I ate a bear. And if they have animistic beliefs, which many people did throughout the world back for most organized religions, very simply, like, that person must have killed that bear and eaten it. So they know at least on like a concrete level, you or one of your hitters killed a bear. So you're capable of killing bears. And if you believe in animism, you consume the spirit flesh of a bear. So it becomes a form of power that you can wear, a fashion statement. And over time, it becomes a prestige item. Like, are you a king? Yes. Have you eaten a bear? No. A king who hasn't eaten the flesh of a courageous animal? What kind of king is that? And so what starts happening is this whole kind of like progression. So it doesn't happen fast, but that's where we are now. So animism at its core actually honors all the spirits, even of things that you may have to contest against in nature that happens. And nature has contestation. But then there's like, I want to dominate contestation. I want to force contestation to come up. I want to go out of my way to just bonus stack that at the exclusion of other things, which does two things. One, it makes your culture that could be known for bears and, you know, beats and putting out really good music and a bunch of other different things. It becomes focused on that one because that one gets you a big reaction, perhaps, in war, things of that nature, or statehood interactions. It has to be said, if you look at right now, the Xeni and the 2Vi Alpha, law, journalism, big business, pretty much all the major things that kind of influence tradition, the way things work over a long period of time. So early on, I'm pretty sure those people are very aware of ritual and the impression of power and imminence and importance. And so that will continue to be that way because, like right now, it's turning, thank goodness, because nowadays it's considered to be more powerful to be modern. And so a person who actually has a gazillion dollar, you know, special synthetic outfit that's super cool, currently in today's world, that's cooler than in most parts of the world. In some parts of the world, still having a coat made out of real mink is cooler. That will die out eventually, thank goodness, but it must be said the reason why it dies out is it does not represent the image that it used to of power. It used to be cutting edge, it used to show, oh, I'm powerful, I can actually get 50 sables. That's really hard to do. In the modern world, getting 50 sables is not that big of a deal. I mean, you know, being able to do something a little more technological is a bigger deal. So it shifted, but that's something we'll have to do with our journalism is kind of like redefine what being powerful and heroic and successful is, because people always go where they think that is.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if a sable has a coat that looks successful, if I actually wear that coat, I look successful. People want that. So
They want the image. They want the physical aspects to it too much.
indeed. And then there's another element which is even more challenging. This we really have to ask people to elevate their morality, is to take prestige from the difficulty of your own personal effort. That is the finest form of nobility. There's nothing more impressive than that. And that's just the way it is, but a lot of people forget this. So they want other things to do it. If it causes people to gasp, it makes the price tag go up. So to make this tablecloth that shade of red, such and such number of rare flowers or rare blood of some animal had to be used to do it. It makes like, whoa. And so it's unfortunate, instead of excelling and rising to a new peak to get that importance, a lot of times people will gut an environment. You know what I mean? Instead of like producing a new kind of work, they'll like, I'm going to take all the marble in this quarry that could be used for thousands of villages, and I'm going to use it for one temple to me to die in.
Hoarding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the word. So that's hoarding is basically to fill that big fucking black hole in your soul that's not going to get filled no matter what. Any human who's in a position of power and is trying to fill that hole, they generally will not go with the answer.
It's effectively greed. I mean, it's just
They basically want to feel like a better human without being a better fucking human. You cannot buy your way, or fuck your way, or eat your way, or travel your way to being a better human. It just does not.
It's like indulgences from the Catholic Church almost.
Exactly. It does not work like that. That's what they're trying to do. So, unfortunate. So Naiji tend to be naturally very resistant to this because we have V-polar and we polar conduct so high. However, Naiji have also been some of the worst offenders of this.
Ooh.
They'll note like, oh, the world's dominating me. I don't like being dominated. I'm going to dominate back. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
dominating means I'm supposed to have everybody's money, and I'm supposed to get all the ladies, and I'm supposed to get all the cars, and it just becomes like, nah, hoarding.
Exactly, yeah.
Basically, hoarding is not winning. They have to really just get that simple message to their head.
Yeah, I think Vaiji especially might be susceptible to that sort of like hoarding thing because they have the Vi, I think.
I think
But yeah,
Xeni, though, can also like the power.
There's two versions. There's hoarding, and there is
Like
leveraging.
Yeah, secret like leverages that they could use.
There are certain things that have just been around for a long time, and so that's kind of like the hoarding aspect. And Vi has a propensity for that. And they've hoarded throughout history, and continuously they lose their money every so few hundred thousands of years, and it gets redistributed. There's belief there might be like an Illuminati out there, something like, but there probably is something like that of the Bi Alpha who've managed above all others to keep their shit from going away. But banks always fall, disasters happen, resources shift across borders, so that
New things come up, new
yeah,
that you could never imagine, game changers.
for
That's
sure.
nice.
Yeah, totally.
But in between those, Vi is very good at hoarding. Every moment that there's not like a game changer, you're like, aha, another dividend. So that's what it is. And there was Xenai. A lot of times, I mean, Xenai are built to be heroic, just like everyone else is. But there are things that can tempt them, just like the indulgences that come from the artistic lifestyle. Now you have to watch out for it because we are susceptible to it. We are prone to be in those areas, and we're prone to think. And we're prone to think, in a way, the world can't tell me about that. Usually it can't, but some things are just not good for you. So for Xenai, something you have to watch out for. It's very appealing, even if something is draconian, perhaps, maybe morally wrong to a degree, but it has the authority of 72 sectars, whatever the fuck that is. Or the legal court of Amsterdam is backing this play. That's $9 billion. For Z, it's really hard to walk away from. If I go along with this, you're telling me that, like basically, if I go along with this corrupt mechanism, I get to be in charge of the mechanism and all its power. It takes a heroic C9 to not.
You gotta be resistant from being power hungry as well.
Yeah,
I believe that.
The wrong kind of power, the power that is going to corrupt you.
Like you want good power, not just power in general, right? I mean,
you got to be. Yeah, it takes a pickiness. The Zhai has to be sort of picky as like, I think that's yucky. It has to be able to say that, and you have to be able to be like, as a Xenai.
That's what Zhai is like Z's partner, like modulator.
Yes, exactly. It needs that modulation. Zai is even better in a way because it inspires the Z. It can be like, well, actually, this is not really, like I perfected the system that you're going with, and it's just not going to work out the way that you think it is, or something like that.
Well, actually, also for their Nez powers will help them tremendously to actually see what the actual larger picture is.
Exactly, like take a long view with their Nai is what I'm thinking.
Definitely. And one thing, like the Zhai will tell them that morally there's an issue, but also Nai plays a big picture of, I don't want to be beholden to a power. Because you may have to compromise your Zhai, the more beholden you are to an existing form of power. If you make the power on your own terms, then you don't have to make those compromises necessarily.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
So to your own way, it's harder work, but you get to make it the way you want.
I think Nai Alpha don't tend. That's probably why Nai Alpha don't tend to fall for that as much, because I think we're cagier about that.
Yeah, we're just like
the beholden.
It's very interesting. It's sort of like you can pay somebody to do this thing for you, or you can just do it yourself. It just like that's sometimes what comes into my head. It's sort of like, well, there's a lot of people that go and spend a lot of money on this or that, but really what they're after is this thing, and you just find out what that thing is, and you could just create that, just that. That's all.
I know. I think there are a lot of Naiji who just like to do a lot of things on their own.
Absolutely.
But there's stuff that gets like a spell that everyone has to work against. We can talk about more in depth another time, because there's one for almost all of them. But the ones I'll just mention right now relate to what he said, the kind of institution of power mojos, the Xenai and the 2 Bi Alpha. When they come into the world, it's very challenging for them. Now, that doesn't excuse them. They have to do the right things, but I do try to recognize their situation. You're born into a, say, Bi Alpha legacy structure where you have those who have it and those who don't. And so you're based...
Yeah, that is true. I mean, like, Naiji are more resistant to that power, so that's actually an advantage in being able to detach from that more. Whereas, like, if you're Baiji, it's a lot harder to, like, to separate yourself from that. Yeah.
And the same with the Xenai is that, you come on, you wake up in the world, and already there's certain power brokers that are in charge of things. And it can be very hard to like not immediately have your Z and Nai be like, I want to be in charge of that. And that becomes like more the goal than peaking.
Yeah.
Would make you in charge of that or something else, but you would still have all your, morality and independence of mind and so forth. But you're confronted right out of the gate, like, if you do these tasks well, you'll excel past the others in class, and you'll get to be the CEO, you'll get to be the president, and so forth. If you don't, you're a nobody. That's a hard spell. You're a young Xenai out of the womb, and basically excel at this Z, or you're a nobody. And you're just on the treadmill. That's like right out of the gate, you're like on a treadmill trying to outdo everyone, not even really able to ask why I'm on this treadmill.
Yeah, you don't even bother asking, so you just assume as a given that that's the way to go, basically.
Yeah.
So we'll have a lot of work, but we can do it because it's there, which is that natural law has already provided individually a way of peaking that would honor all 8 of your powers. So no mojo should be operating in a unheroic manner if they're doing their peak pathway correctly, because you're designed to actually have this really great checks and balances system. And then, beyond that, your storyline is supposed to groove with other people. So I'm not going to try to make Vi Alpha and Z9 not be themselves and not be really into institutions of power, because that's just going to happen. Natural law said they're really good at that. However, institutions of power are supposed to represent the entire system and populace, and it doesn't. So the Vi Alpha and Xenon of the future will still be doing the journalism and the politics and big business, but they're going to know what their demographic is. The demographic they have to serve is going to have to be a lot larger. And Nijez have their own thing with that as well. I mean, if you listen to, because like I'm doing all these songs for the music timeline. If you listen to the lyrics, which I love, but there's a general theme of like, fuck it, I don't have to do what anyone else is doing. I go my own way, or me and my baby go my own way, or me and my baby's all I care about. And there's a general theme of like, the world, what? Who cares? I mean, it's about me and my baby, or something like that. And so that's true to a point, but if you actually can, like, if you hear a lot of lyrics, the position that a lot of them are taking, a lot of Naiji, some Nijai too as well, but definitely Naiji for sure, that position's not tenable.
Yeah.
Like, do you mean like my Vaiji buddy, Steady Shepherd, he's like, listen, you got to talk to them. Like, I will. Like, Naiji, I'm all about the independence of mind, but that's basically saying, like, we're from a totally different tribe than these other humans, and you're not. You're not. You're a specialist, but you are the same tribe, and you'll need to do. But on the other hand, it's kind of polarized, because you look at politics, a lot of, like, especially more conservative stuff, even like supposedly liberal politics, it really still is favoring those certain mojos being the mandate givers, because most Nijez activities viewed in that light are outlawed. Like, you're like renegade just right out of the gate. So both of them are going to have to compromise some and accept that national law has already said we should be getting along way better than we are. Because politics right now, like modern art, generally do not get along at all. But that shouldn't be the case, because we're actually designed to get along, if we know what we're doing. Which we do. We're working on it.
Indeed. There's a lot of spells out there that need to be dispelled.
A big one on that for Naiji that gets a lot of them. It's sad how many it gets. And a lot of the ones in music. I mentioned MMA, which is like obviously the physical part of the V, but actually artists might even be worse, because there is an obsession with physicality as far as like being tough.
Like the glamour.
But glamour and sex and drugs, just experiential stuff.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of Naiji, you can tell they've been hit by this spell early on that you need to use your genius to figure out how to force them to give you that. You need to find a rock and roll spell that you can use. If you do, then you can ask for whatever I want. Because basically, I'm not going to get nothing. The world's going to give me nothing unless I can figure out a spell. If I can get a spell to get in their head, then I get whatever I want. It's kind of like that's how it works. A lot of Naiji, like a lot of their lyric, particularly rappers, but all of them, it's sort of like, I get nothing until I get a song people care about, then I get everything. The more noble Naiji, they'll often mention, they lament this in their lyrics. Like, it's weird, no one gives a shit about me, and then I make this record, now everyone does, but not like I want. They'll actually kind of like feel weird about it.
Yeah, their art, I've heard several artists say this, even Nijai too have said this, when they start getting popular, they're worried about how their art's going to have to compromise for their viewer audience. that's going to start demanding things of them
Sure.
instead of the purity
Right, yeah.
that it would have had originally.
It reminds me of like George R. Martin, in the sense that he writes his books because his spirits basically tell him, he communicates with his other. He has like this really wise thing going on, and then he like is able to create these characters, and then he's able to do everything that he wants to do, and it's because he wants to do them, and people will like it or people will hate it, but it is something that he comes up with, and he believes in it, and he really identifies with it, and that's sort of like really important for him. And it's just something that he does. He would be doing that whether or not he was being paid lots of money, and if there was like he had like his own TV show or not. And that's like the way it should be. It's sort of like that's the right reason to do it. But sometimes it's like a lot of people, a lot of music artists and stuff, they'll do that too. But then they'll also feel like they need to pander. They'll need to do that one like really hit song, and then that'll get them the kind of publicity that they want, the kind of image that they want in the world. But that's not really, it's kind of like the cheap kind of thrill that they go for. It's like, okay, whatever. They do that on the side, but then they also create other music, which is more deeper and stuff. But really, I think that it should be mostly, if not all of it, should be just like the stuff that you really want to do. You shouldn't have to compromise. You shouldn't have to like.
There's two elements. Either compromising angle, which is the big one, and another angle is the overindulgence in the experiential things. Jimmy, the fact that you can have bodyguards, you can have sex whenever you want, you can get drugs, and most people can. And just because you can have access to anything you want doesn't mean you should use it. But as an IG, I do understand the desire, really in anything, to have access to everything. And then I choose what I want to do. On the other hand, if you are bombarded by highly stimulated choices like that, it can be difficult to keep your equilibrium like it should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On the one hand, I'm like, as an artist, as a visionary, I want to be able to get to anything on the internet I want. I'd like to be able to have access to these things. That natural disposition of Naiji is why a lot of stuff they do is kind of contraband, revolutionary, even criminal, where a lot of times you would not even consider them to be very dangerous criminal types. Just they want to be able to live their life the way they want. They want to be able to do the things they want to do. That's outlawed. A lot of times they'll do it all by themselves. Naiji, they do organized crime as well, but a lot of stuff they do is just they don't want to follow ordinances. That's a classic one. You know what I mean? Why can't I build my house like this? Because some law says you can't. But I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Well, that nowhere is technically part of Region X. Fuck Region X. You know what I mean? I want to build my cabin the way I want to build my cabin, man.
I was like, there's nothing wrong with doing it this way,
There's this one song I was just thinking of that I've heard before, because my brother listens to a lot of rap, actually. And there's a song by Genai Drake. Right? He's a Genai. What he does with some Naiji artists. It's called, I don't remember the name. But I think I do. I think it's called Successful or something. It encapsulates that spell.
For sure.
That we're talking about.
Another one's like that. It has 3 rappers in there, all Naiji. Is Look at Me Now.
Oh, I've heard that. I've heard that one too.
I've heard of that song.
Right.
That's a
Busta
big one.
Rhymes
Busta Rhymes, yeah.
and Lil Wayne.
That's a classic Naiji. Oh, you didn't give me any credit. Now I'm a star. Ah, eat it.
Yeah.
Eat it.
They say that in a lot of them. They say a lot of that where that's a common lyric where they're like, oh, before I was nothing and now you have to buy me a drink or something and celebrate.
There's this one line that Chris Brown says. He's like, I make what you make in 2 years in 2 days. That's it's like a jab at the same time, but it's also yeah, you have a lot of money. I mean, it's just sort of it's kind of they make money into something that's very I don't know, I don't necessarily like the way that they kind of portray money in that way.
No.
Look at all this wealth I don't need, right?
Exactly. I think it's ugly and I think it's weak. Because
exactly.
For me as an IG, as long as you actually don't go off the rails, there's no question what is the most powerful thing. That is a visionary, artistic fanatic. And one thing that goes with being a fanatic is that you go for higher things at a pace and tendency other people can't, and you disregard all useless distractions. Mm-hmm. That's power. So when I hear you talking on and on about you make in 2 days what other people make in 2 years, I'm like, why is that so important that you... For example, when you guys heard The Coach in the Cave, when I decide to say something artistically, those are thoughts I felt like I wanted to say. So I'm like, you actually are going to take time to write a song, pour your passion into it, give it lots of bling and so forth, and that's what you want to say, I've got some money. That's a pretty pathetic message to have to get out to people.
It's just one little simple message, like, I have
ooh, look at me.
resources.
It seems very insecure. It seems like you're afraid that like me, if you look like Coach the Cave, it's true. I'm afraid if I don't say these words, you'll keep being stupid. That's a fear I have. It's a justified fear. But this fear is like, I'm afraid if I don't tell you I have money, you won't know. I'm afraid if I don't tell you I get laid all the time, you won't know. Like, why is that a fear you have? Why are you afraid people won't know you have money? You know what I mean? That seems, to me, it seems like a very petty, low fear to have for your Daru. Your Daru will give you proper fear.
It just seems insecure and shallow.
Failure to rise up to your vision. That's a fear to have.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because they actually get a lot of people who are bombarded by that. They want that strength. They think it's strength. That's not strength. They're so insecure.
Yeah.
And what does it in the end really get them? Do you mean, I don't think they actually ever going to really get what it is that they want, which is, you're important. Because if you really wanted to make money, there's more reliable ways to make money, and objectively speaking, even for like Ni Alpha kind of stuff, if you want to make money, you wouldn't go into music. I mean, if you were to use like visionary stuff.
Yeah, like why did that person go into music to begin with if that's all they wanted?
Yeah, so I'm like, the reason why you're in music, like, they should ask themselves this, why are you here? You want to be important. So, the first step to being important is to properly define importance. And if you're defining importance as having money and getting laid and so forth, you don't understand what being important is. I mean, you don't understand what is important in life, therefore you don't know how to be important. And so you keep doing those things, you're going to keep feeling unimportant.
Like, it makes you seem important, but it doesn't make you more important.
No.
It makes you less important to be shallow and insecure.
It makes you seem important to people who don't know what importance is.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a big distraction. And unfortunately, well said, Mitch.
Oh, yeah.
It allows people who are weak-willed. For example, it's why they have to like downgrade women, because Nijai, for example, that actually are like strong Nijai, not like crazy feminists. I'm just talking strong Nijai. They wouldn't put up that shit. Which is why most of them end up with Nijai arm candy.
Oh yeah.
Because they couldn't handle like most of Nijai like artists, like female artists you see out there, they tend to move in the indie scene. Most of those rap artists could not be around someone like that. They're just too virtuous, too independent-minded, too no, wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And so, right there, just right there, me and Bodhi are like laughing in their face. You're gonna try to tell me how awesome you are, when as a Naiji, Natural has said you need to be getting it on big time with your other, and you are just nailing a bunch of Vijay. Wow. So you're, I mean, right there, it's like, I mean, you're just spending money on something that's not even the right prize. Stupid. Right out of the gate, that's mathematically and forensically stupid.
Like all the Kardashians.
This actually brings something up, which is sort of like me and Mitchell were talking about this a little bit. You mentioned, Coach, that there was this Nijai that I think Kanye West was in a relationship with.
No,
but then
actually, that was a mistake, although I still stand by she's actually more squared away in some ways than Kim Kardashian, but that is Amber Rose. Amber Rose is a Bijai.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was someone else. I was like, there was this one Nijai, but then it doesn't look like, is that Amber Rose? But I was like wondering, but yeah.
But still, she also did challenge him more with her Jai on his morality. I think Kanye West and Kim Kardashian have a rule: as long as both are successful and help the other one out, then that is the morality. And Amber Rose looks like her morality has some tuning up to do. But the fact that she actually would drop that card on him, I think he just probably found like too confining. And now, most rap people, their thing is like, until you can top my power, morality is not into the discussion. The morality is who has right of way, and that's me. Boo. That's that old might is right crap.
Yeah, yeah.
I do find that what you call Amber Rose is pretty good, and has this relationship with Wiz Khalifa, and I was like, yeah, it's cool, Najez, right? But even though it isn't Najez, she is a good person, I'd say, and and I think they have a good connection, but obviously it's not Najez, so I mean they should. Like, I mean, good people, but I don't think they would be good. They're necessarily.
No, I think they'd be good friends and they can be good with each other for a period of time, but they have to accept this basic truth, which is they have allowed their other and what it can provide them to be, that signal has been sublimated by the impact for Vijay, who's in the sort of rap hip-hop world, to have a dangerous, extremely talented Naiji. You've got the alpha dog. You've got the guy that if you're in those environments, that if the person who's in that environment is a Naiji who's got the power of voice, then no one wants to mess with them. And everyone's going, that person's a genius and they're strong. But the Vijay who's in that world, that can be very, very, tempted. They need to understand, actually, you should try going out with some Baiji executives who've got some good knee. Believe it or not, it's actually a better match. But he's spending most of her time at certain parties. It's mainly going to be a lot of Vijay and Naiji. And so it's not going to be a question of Vijay versus Naiji. It's a question of which Naiji is the strongest. Same with Naiji. If you're in the hip-hop world, it's mainly Vijay ladies and some Jai V and Jivai. Mainly sensualists, mostly Vijay. So again, it's not a question of Vijay or Nijai, it's which Vijay has the best Jai and Nai.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But like, for them, that doesn't enter the picture. And unfortunately, this is what sucks. If you take a really spiffy Nijai, like Regina Spektor or Lizzie, or there's a whole bunch of these indie artist ones. They're really cool and they're beautiful and they're talented and so forth. They would be something you would have to explain. I know, having grown up in Baltimore, which has hip-hop was all was around me in my neighborhood, that's all that you heard. The culture there, the kind of, like Abrams I tend to be with, that's something you had to defend. That's like a choice. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you were to have an attractive Vijay, automatically you'd be given credit and you wouldn't have to explain. So immediately, wow, and no questions. Like, I date a lot of Jaini, and they tend to be attractive, but despite being attractive and very good people with a lot of intelligence and so forth, and were good in school, and I mean, like, impressive people, I had to explain it, like, why you would want that. It's kind of interesting, and it sounds funny, but it's amazing how many people, even in IG, will just go with the flow if they have to keep explaining their choice. That's why IG tend to be like being by themselves a lot, because they don't explain their choices. But when you're around other people, you should be able to hold to what you feel is correct. You know what I mean? But a lot of it's exposure.
I can understand.
In the case of hip hop, they might not really have much exposure to the other one.
So you mentioned, Coach, I think you said this, when you're with a Nijai, you have to explain why you're with the Nijai, and you have to fight for that?
If you're in an environment like the hip-hop one, for example, where the Vijay is idolized as the get-to-get. If you're with a Nijai or a Jaini, as I was frequently, then it's not that. And despite the fact they were very attractive, they got good grades in school, did cool, interesting jobs, which should all be like mega bonuses that are better than this person who, not that they were all like this, but a lot of times they mainly were just attractive and knew how to like act right at a party, which to me are not really two super high scores I was looking for in a mate. But that was something I had to kind of like explain or use my, a lot of times I didn't explain because I feel like it. I use my ferocity, my hard face, just sort of like, don't bother me. Don't bother me, don't bother my lady. But I had to make a zone because it was not something that was going to readily get me like the kind of like respect that was expected. So as an IG, anyway, I'd be strong to do that anyway, but it can be hard. But I had advantages. One, I have strong will. Two is I did a lot of media that I considered to be more me than where I lived. And any IG that does that gets a big bonus to their independence of mind. Whether they do it with the Dragon Fleet or with media that they like, they basically don't really identify their G expectations with most people. So naturally, even when IG do identify the community, their Nai will make them independent-minded. But if they have checked out from the community that's around them into something else, the independence goes up higher. Third thing was, because of interests I had, like role-playing games, for example, I met a lot of AdRoms. So I realized that they were really cool and that the interaction I had with them, I really liked it. In fact, I liked it better than any other kind of interaction. So when I was shown on the street, like, oh, look at her, oh, so-and-so likes you, I'm like, yeah, but they're not. I could tell I wasn't going to get that cool conversation that I liked. If you don't have that, because if you're lonely, you need to actually have what you want firmly in your mind when other options are put in front of you. Otherwise, your loneliness or desire to actually have people think highly of you may lean on you too much.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't excuses. I mean, those people, the Nige have done this a lot of times. Hip hop, they have to own that. They have to get better. But just trying to explain kind of why it happens. So if you don't have ladies around you or anyone around you that actually is an ad-rom, for example, you give the kind of conversation, lets you know, oh, I need that. I must have that. So that's a hunger you don't even know about. Then around you, maybe the media that you're around, that you're exposed to, doesn't give you anything else than what's around your immediate environment. And then in your immediate environment, it's rewarding stuff outside your pathway. Those are heavy. That's why any Nige, really anyone, but definitely Nige, you should try to find out as much as you can about the world. Because for sure, every local environment is brainwashing you. That's a fact. In fact, if you are an Nige who does not know the brainwashing spell of your local environment, you're being brainwashed. There's always one. I've never been anywhere that does not have some endemic thing of, because no one knows peak pathways of social alchemy, they're doing something else. And they're always telling you that's what you should be doing.
And they're always wrong.
Until they figure out.
Always got it.
Yeah, they're going to always have that one wrong. You really need to peak? No, this. Like, if the answer is not peak, then no, that's not what I really need to be doing. Because it's me what? Go to school, get a girl, make some money?
Exactly.
There are some niche that are actually in rap, though, which is interesting. I mean,
No.
the one that comes to my mind, I don't know what your opinion on her is, Coach, but Maya. Have you heard of her?
She's interesting. One thing I found interesting about that is that the Niji rappers, actually Niji artists in general, females, don't tend to be as overtly kind of physically oriented. Maya actually does more of that than a lot of Niji, but even hers, it's quirkier. There's a quirkiness.
Oh yeah, like Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga,
That's an example. Extremely quirky.
They're very quirky. And so it's interesting to see the rappers. They do it like Mary J. Blige, for example. They Missy Elliott. Missy Elliott is what I was talking about.
Missy Elliott.
They tend to kind of use their creativity as a major part of their sex appeal, above the physicality. Although they're not above using that to help augment, but the main thing is I'm a very interesting person.
Yeah, like that makes you think more, kind of thing. I think I heard you say that once. The way that the Niji do that, as compared to like Vijay.
Sure, me likey.
Like it's not as much of just like a V, like this is really appealing. It's like it first makes you look at it like, what is this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
do I really like this? Is that sexy?
And they share this with the other Jez Gatherer, which is they do want a person to deeply, fanatically, as only Jez hunters can, they want someone to fanatically desire them. But the reason why is different. Niji kind of want to do like the Mata Hari Cleopatra on you and just get your brain so dazzled with their their weirdness. You're like, I must have this. But both Jez Gatherers like to have someone fanatic like, I must have that. What is that? The Niji, it's more your obvious, more physical trophy kind of thing.
Right.
There's more to it than that. But for the Niji, they definitely like to, where if you would like choose them to have a conversation with above anyone else. That's a big deal. As a Niji, if you actually feel that way towards them, express that to them, that's a huge compliment to them. As far as like feeling desired.
That you want to talk to them, that you want to be able to.
Oh yeah, that you find conversating with them easy, fun. It gets you going.
Yeah.
That makes them feel very desirable and it's true, powerful. Because it is actually how the kind of conversations an Niji can have with the Niji is why they get us going so much. Because they let us get our wizard dragon freak on. Like no one else will.
Yeah.
Yes, but kind of interesting. I noticed that they threw a card out there too. It was like the Vijay, the little sexy thing. But I was like, nah, I'm nasty if you want me to be. The Niji do it too, but I noticed a subtle difference. It's not so much nasty, which has a more physical vibe to it. Freaky. Like, I'll be freaky. You know what I mean? And like that's like a big thing about them is like, I'll be freaky if you want, and you'll have to deal with me being freaky, because either way, I'm gonna be freaky. I'm like, you go, Niji. know,
Hold on, Coach. I feel like you wanted to maybe talk about the music bubble. Did you get a chance to do that
We
fully?
basically did. This has been great. We've basically been doing it right here. So it's cool.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There's just ones that came to my mind. Different ones I think are really neat. As far as like a Nijai that kind of I like some of the spells is I give kind of a retro one. I kind of give a modern one. Is in Greece. There is a song, the one that I want. That's being sung by Naiji, John Travolta, and Nijai, Olivia Newton-John. And it's a cool, interesting scene. Are you guys familiar with Grease?
Yeah, I watched the movie. Yeah.
Okay, so a long story short, it basically is they had a fling during summer, but she came out from more like a virtuous kind of, a shy girl way, and he was coming out from a player way, although he really liked her. Now they meet in school. They didn't know that was going to happen. He's with the bad boys, and she's a good girl. So they have their on-off thing to the musical, and so basically ends with she now has her bad girl outfit on because she is going to basically be a bad girl for him. But he, on his hand, he has a Letterman jacket on because he just went out for track and did well in that, which he's being, joked about by his, bad boy crew. He's like, she likes that kind of stuff, and I'm going to do it to impress her. So they both basically are like maturing in order that the other one will like them. But they're still going to be who they are. So last kind of song, she's basically saying the song, "You're the one I want." He's going to have to be better. Because she's gonna go bad for him, basically. Like she's wearing the leather now. She's like, I'm gonna basically like try to be as cool with it I can, but you gotta then measure up. You got to make sure that I'm not like letting myself go and investing on a loser creep. And so basically, so I like that. It's called The One That I Want. So basically saying like, I've already fallen for you, so don't fuck me over. It's really, I like that. It's really cool, and he responds to it. You know what I mean? I really like that. Another one is from D. Antwoord. We talked about them before. Naiji Ninja and Nijai Yolandi Visser. Is one of my favorite songs I've listened to a lot lately. Is Ugly Boy. Have you heard that one?
I haven't.
I highly recommend you check it out. And so the basic gist of it is that I guess because they hear a lot, he's not the most attractive guy necessarily, although he has a lot of charisma and magnetism to him. And she, although freaky, is clearly like a freaky hottie. And people wonder, like, why is she with him? And so the song is basically why she likes him. And it's that he is a freak, and she admires that he's a freak, and he likes her being freaky, she likes that, and basically that she's emotional, and he's cool with that he doesn't care about material stuff, just her, and basically the refrain is kind of like he's maybe ugly in appearance and even in his methods, but he always does it for me and with a good heart, so he's awesome. So I really kind of like that. It's kind of like kind of seeing why Nijai. I do like that about Nijai. Not that anyone can't do this, but Nijai who are well developed don't tend to be very oriented on the physical.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of what do you call it, Beauty and the Beast in a way.
Yes,
although I think she might be. I guess it could be interpreted as Adram, like either one of them. But yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. So those are two I was going to mention, and there's a lot more, but I just found it kind of fascinating what the Nijais find appealing about each other and how it changes some in the delivery through the various eras, but it's basically the same song. It's the same story, same in a wonderful way. I like that like every song that has Nijais stuff in it, it's different. So every song in any era is different, and every era is different, but still. It's Nijais doing Nijais. I don't know. I found a beautiful kind of continuity in that.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same underlying, motif going on, but the external kind of like ways it can come out, those can be different.
Definitely. All right. That's basically 7:30. That was cool. We actually went right on time. That was a good session. It was fun talking those topics.
Awesome.
Also, we have good rhythms.
That was a lot of fun.
I think if you give us anything to kind of go off of, we'll kind of jam pretty well.
Yeah, easily.
I'll try and come up with things to talk about, like kind of ahead of time for these hangouts, because on weeks when we don't really have anything, then I'll know something, because there's always something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. There's always something. Yeah.
All right, that was great, guys. Have a good evening, and I'm going to get back into ebook stuff.
Excellent.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
I'll see you guys on Sunday, and we are on for the Starglow thing on Monday, so we'll be ready for that.
See you.
Awesome.